tonight, that the weather gave us a break, and that we have got a great lineup. All of our speakers were able to come, and it's just really good to see all of you. A bunch of people that I didn't expect, and some that I was hoping I might see, but I didn't know for sure. So it's really, really nice to have everybody here. We have the commissioner, County Commissioner Andy Summerman is here tonight, and he has got a flight after this, so I'm going to move things along tonight so that we can get all of him that we can and get all the information that we can from all of our speakers. So, my name is Ginny Laughlin. In case anybody doesn't know, I am the president of Richardson Democrats, and I am just so thank you. Thank you for coming, and thank you for supporting us. And this is the kind of thing that we have the ability to put together because we have involved and engaged community who is interested in finding out these kind of things. And so it inspires us to be able to do something else and try something new. So I'm really happy that everybody is here tonight. We are going to start. Do you have a seat? Do you have a seat? I feel like you guys need a seat. Do you want to stand the whole time? There's more chairs around that table there if anybody wants to find a place to sit. But, sorry. I am going to... And there's more folding chairs. Yeah, so I want everybody to be comfortable and make yourself at home so we can really get into the meat of this. So what I'm going to do tonight is introduce our speakers. They'll come up and give you kind of their presentation of what their take on affordable housing is. May is a National Affordable Housing Month, so we're focusing on that this month. They will give you each their perspective and what they're doing with it, and then we will have the three of them come up here and do a Q&A kind of panel. So please hold your questions, and do hold them. We'll catch them, keep them, and let's engage after this, because it's great to have a conversation. It's an opportunity to have a conversation with people that we don't often get a chance to talk with certainly about this kind of subject. So, before we get started, I want to thank our City Council for showing up tonight. Joe Corcoran is here. And Curtis Dorian is here. Where'd you go, Curtis? Oh, there you are. Curtis Dorian is here. Really appreciate you guys taking an interest in this and showing up to talk with people kind of off the stage. And then, of course, Dan Barrios is here, and we're going to see him a little bit later in the program. So I do appreciate you all showing up. We're going to start tonight with a new precinct chair here in Richardson. His name is Stephen Firebaugh. I'm sorry I say it wrong every time, and I'm so careful I'm going to say it right. Stephen Firebaugh, and he's got an idea and a concept that he wants to share with us, so I'm going to invite him up here to talk with us about what he's got going on. Come on up.
How many precinct chairs do we have here tonight? Great. So tonight I want to talk to you about, I am precinct chair over in College Park and North College Park, and when I was out block walking, I was really surprised at the number of Democratic primary voters that thought that they were in a deep red area. And I guess it was like Texas is red, so I guess I'm in a red area. Not my precinct. We're light blue. We vote Democratic, not by a large margin, but pretty consistently. And so we're going to have to drive out the vote, get out the vote in these areas if we're going to have any success in November. And I started looking around for opportunities to do that. And so this is an example flyer of the ask that I'm going to present to my voters. And basically it's to my Democratic primary voters, and they're already sold on the Democratic Party. So this is to help them help their neighbors understand. So it's free. You don't have to do anything. We will bring a yard sign to your yard. You don't have to go pick it up, and you don't have to pay for it. Every 2 weeks, we will bring you a new issue yard sign. These are not yard signs for candidates. These are yard signs that are funny or a little pointed or a, hey, make you think type of yard sign. And every 2 weeks, we're going to swap out the yard sign for a new yard sign. And so basically, we take that neighbors and move it down to the next street over. So every couple of weeks, they're seeing a fresh yard sign that helps them realize, hey, my neighbors really do share my values, and encourage them to get out and vote. And so if you are a precinct chair, I'm particularly interested in talking to you because the math on this works out that basically if you take the budget that they've given us this year and you just get $1 of matching funds for each dollar in the budget, you can get 100 yard signs, which is about as many as I think we can practically use in our precinct. And the more precinct chairs we get sign up, the more different types of issue ads we can run. So if we get 6, we're probably going to have 6 different designs. If we can get 8 or 10, we'll have even more. I would love to have one on affordable housing. My stretch goal is I would really love to have a yard sign that talks about some people can't take snow days in Cancun. And so, so the more yard signs, the more precincts we get, the more yard signs we can get. So if you're interested, find me afterwards. My phone number and email are on the sheet. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. So she asked if it was just for Richardson, and he said no, it's for anybody that's in I think mostly in the Dallas County area, because that's the Dallas County Democratic Party that's doing kind of the funding for it, half of the funding, I guess. So thank you very much for that. And there's some pretty cute ideas. I think you guys have the flyers on that. There's some great ideas for the signs. We are going to jump right into the meeting, and I'm going to start tonight with County Commissioner in District 2, Andrew Summerman. And if you'll want to come on up. I'll never forget when Andy came to our meeting outside, and he wanted to introduce himself. And I said, here's the microphone. And he said, I'm not going to need that microphone. So I'll turn it down a little bit for you. Okay. Thank you for coming tonight.
You bet. How y'all doing? My name is Andy Summerman. I am a Democrat, been all my life. And I am your county commissioner if you live in Dallas County and you live in Richardson. Okay? So I am absolutely that person. Yes.
You're on camera.
Excellent. Hey, how y'all doing? I will try and stand still. As a result, that's a little hard for me to do. But I am your county commissioner, and I want to talk to you about housing initiatives. All right? Now, I've only been in office for about a year and 4 months now, 5 months. Okay? But we've already started on this project very clearly, especially here in the Richardson area. One of those areas that need the best and most need is what I call workforce housing. All right, now let me tell you what workforce housing is. All these housing initiatives have a different name. And when they come with a name, they have different meanings associated with it. When people think about affordable housing, they are talking about maybe putting homeless into a house somewhere. But if you're talking about workforce housing, we're talking about people who have jobs, who can afford a house, but cannot afford a house in your area. Who is that? Teachers, okay? RISD, if you are a teacher and single, you cannot afford a house in Richardson, period, end of story. So we have to do something about that in order to make sure that we have good teachers that are kept in Richardson. So one of the initiatives I did, although it's in the city of Dallas, it's in RISD, to be clear, is to make homes for teachers. Now, what are we talking about? Well, first of all, what you need to do is get some land, all right? And there was a piece of land that's right across the street from TI, over there on Stoltz Road and Forest. I want you to put that picture in your head. You're driving down Forest Lane, you see on your left TI. Just before you got that, look to the right, you'll see a church, okay? The church is burnt. It had a fire, okay? And it's been abandoned. And no, I'm not taking some church from some people, all right? They wanted to sell it, as did the house right next door to it. And I said, great. Now, you may have heard something about this. Parkland thought about putting a clinic in there. It received lots of opposition to it because, gosh, we don't want homeless coming to Parkland here near our homes. You know, that's what the concern was. And so after they said, no, we're not going to put something there, I said, I want it, okay? I want it. Now, one of the best things I got going is that I had what's called ARP dollars. This is, COVID dollars, right? And so the first thing I did is said, let's buy that piece of land. And so we did, right? We bought it from the church, and we bought it from the homeowner that was right next to the church. And this is several acres that we have there, and we're currently bulldozing all of the property right now. Now, what am I going to put up there? This is my easel. His name is Todd Hensley. All right, very good. Very good. Thank you very much. Yes, Vanna White himself. All right, there you go. And we're going to put at least, let me say that again, at least 29 houses on this area. Now, it's not going to look exactly like that. I've decided I'm not going to build this road. That's a real expensive road. You know what I mean? It's cheaper to build a little cul-de-sac here and give this more green. You with me? Yeah. But here's what I'm going to do. 29 houses right here. Single-family dwellings, all right? Every one of them would fit in right with the neighborhood. I'm not talking about cheap houses. I'm talking about regular houses. Now, if you know anything about housing, it goes like this. The single most expensive part about building a house is the land. That's the single most expensive part. Because if you're a developer, you have to buy the land, you have to get a loan, you have to service the loan, and you have to do that while you're not selling anything. You with me? You're just holding on to a lot of expensive dirt while you are digging into your pockets and throwing money into a house that may or may not sell. You with me? So it's really, really scary for developers along those lines. I've taken all that fear out. I own the property. I will give it to the people who buy these houses. The people who buy these houses will be able to own their house. There are going to be some provisions associated with it, and it's going to be what I call the 7-year plan, all right? You can't buy it and sell it, because if you did, I'm in. Let me have that house. I'll buy it and sell all 29 of them about as fast as you can, right? No, we can't do that. The other thing you might want to do is say, I'll buy that and rent that and make money off it. No, you can't do either one of those things for 7 years, all right? Now, I cannot discriminate against who buys the house, but I can market, okay? I can market to anybody I want. And the first people I'm going to offer this to is Richardson Independent School District teachers. You want to buy a house? And now, they live in their own district. RISD teachers will be able to own and be able to teach in their own district. And that's very important, okay? So that's workforce housing. The other thing that we have learned is this. Houses will, from time to time, go on the auction block. What I'm talking about is this. You've probably even seen it before. You ever gone down to the courthouse on a Tuesday and seen 100 people standing around going, $20, $50. Okay, you know what they're doing? They're buying land. They're buying houses. Okay, this is what they're buying. You with me? And what they do is they then come in, fix up the house, flip it, and make money. You with me? Sometimes the houses don't sell. Why is it that they don't sell? Because they're encumbered with too many taxes is usually the way it goes. You're going to buy that house, you're going to buy that piece of land off the auction site. It doesn't come debt-free. You with me? You got a mortgage on it, you got to pay it. You got taxes on it, you got to pay it. You all with me? All right. Well, who owns those taxes? Well, I do. You know what I mean? It's the county, right? Sometimes it's y'all, the city, you see what I'm saying? And we will ask for waivers of these tax debts, and we will take possession of them ourselves, tear down whatever's there, build a house. You with me? Who gets the house? RISD teachers. You with me? And we've already got the land for one of these places. It was indebted. It was on the courthouse steps. If you're wondering who's selling on the courthouse steps, it's the county. Okay? That's the one who does the sale. And so I'm saying, okay, it didn't sell. I'm not going to take anything off the market. I'm just saying, if it didn't sell, I'll take that. Thank you very much. And I'll build you a house. We're going to call it workforce housing. Everybody with me?
Yes.
All right, good. So that's one way of accomplishing it. Now let's say that RISD teachers don't fill up all these houses. Who's next is the answer. The answer is first responders and nurses is my next stop. Okay? So if you're a nurse and you're practicing over there at Presby, my gosh, I'm right near you. You know what I mean? Come on down. We'll get you a house, you know. And it's not for free. Let's be clear. You're still having to pay for the house. You know what I mean? Let's call the price $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, somewhere around there, right? You can afford that. You know what I mean? At $300,000 or $400,000, an RIS teacher can purchase that home. You know with me? Okay, good. Yeah. No, really, you can. All right. So, do you have any questions about workforce housing? All right.
Wait. Q&A.
I'm sorry. Forgive me. And I'm probably moving too much for the camera.
We got you.
Am I doing okay? Okay. The next thing that we need to talk about is homeless housing. All right. What are we going to do along these lines? Now, the second thing that I did was make sure that there was money going towards homeless housing. There is a place that's on Greenville and 635. It's an extended stay hotel that was there. Now, to let you know, this was a house of ill repute. All right? I mean, that's what it was really being used for, and sometimes some drug deals. All right? It was notorious for this. And so it needed to go. So the choice was we could buy it and tear it down, or we could buy it and convert it. And so I took some other ARP dollars that were in my possession, and I said, I want to buy that hotel. And so I did. I bought it along with the City of Dallas and Catholic Housing. And I said, all right, now I'm going to hand this over to Catholic Housing. All right? And Catholic Housing has done it already. In fact, the first 3 people are moving in real soon. They have converted the place. They look good. I was supposed to bring you some pictures, but I didn't. But you know, they look really good. In fact, I'd live there. I really would. It's not bad at all, right? They got a kitchenette, the whole thing, and the whole idea is that we're going to take people off the street who are able to take care of themselves. That's an issue, right? And then we're going to make sure that they have a place to stay. And it's not just, here's a place to stay, see ya, either. We're putting services within that hotel area. In the common area will be people like MetroCare and folks like that who deal with folks who are homeless, who have a difficult time with adjusting, and things like that. We're going to give you a service where you live as well. Everybody with me? Yeah. And so, by the way, this isn't in a terrible place either. I mean, think about it, right? I'm not putting it next to your house, because if I did, you'd be like, I don't know about that, right? I'm putting it on a busy street, right? Right next to businesses all the way around it. And if you've ever seen Catholic Housing running a show, then you are one of the few and the proud, because they run places all over town and you don't even know they're there. That's how good they are, okay? Now, outside of Richardson itself, there are other opportunities to be able to do what's called transitional housing. This is, now they're not at the bridge, okay, where they're just starting out. They're not at the hotel that I bought and turned into apartments basically for them to live in. Now you have adjusted and you're ready to live on your own without services right there. Now you can still get access to services, right? And so there is an entity called MetroCare that's run by the county, and MetroCare is involved in health care, mental health care especially, throughout the county. And what they're doing is buying apartment complexes. The whole complex, right? Now the reason why that is so neat is if I came to the city of Richardson and I say, I want to put homeless housing right here in this area, I'm going to build homeless housing, you would get a lot of what I call NIMBYites, okay? People, not in my backyard, you know what I mean? That's what NIMBY stands for, right? No, you're not going to put it right there. But if I buy an apartment complex, I don't have to change a thing. It's an apartment complex. It doesn't matter who owns it. You see what I'm saying? Now I can put people into that apartment complex. It's not happening in Richardson, to let you know. It's more down in there in the Oak Lawn area that this is happening. And by the way, it's so successful, no one knows it's there. I mean, that's how good it is. So it's working out pretty good. All right. Finally, there's a vision I have. I'm not here yet, but I'm going to get there, all right? In Harris County and in Bexar County, they have less homeless per capita than we do. Why is that? And the answer is a direction center. That's the answer. This is the secret sauce for homelessness. It really is. I want you to envision this man is homeless, okay? And he needs health care. This is what he needs. Where's he going?
County.
He's going to go to Parkland, isn't he? Okay? Now what happens at Parkland? They'll treat him for whatever his physical malady may be and then release him. Right? Now he's hungry. Where's he going? All right?
Food bank.
Food bank, where's that? Do you know?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Here.
Do you know? No. Do you know where do you? He doesn't either, by the way. Right? Then how am I going to get there? Okay? I am homeless and my mental states are probably not very good, and now you force me to go someplace else to get a sandwich. All right? Now I'm at the sandwich place and I need a place to stay tonight. Where do I go? Do you know that there's lots of places that has homeless housing? Like the ones I'm talking about. Do the homeless know that Catholic Housing is building a place over here? No, they don't know. And this is especially true in places like Richardson that don't have, because you can't afford it, no fuss, no muss. I'm not blaming anybody, okay? But you really can't afford to have like what Dallas has, which is, right care and, housing first and all these other programs that they have, because they have billions.
Get them out of here.
Right, and what are they going to do with them, right? So the county needs to take, I think, responsibility for this. And we need to help Richardson, Carrollton, Farmers Branch, Capel, all those towns and cities in a coordinated effort and have one place you could go. And everybody knows about it. I mean, everybody knows about it. I have a homeless problem. I need a sandwich. Where do I go? Direction center. I need a house. Where do I go? Direction center. Well, I need health care. Where do I go? Direction center. One answer. One answer is all that you need. And when you show up at this direction center, what happens? Hi, I'm here. I'd like to have a sandwich. Right here. See that guy? Okay? I need a house. Right behind me. I need health care. See that guy? Right over there. You with me? And they have transportations of their own. This is Parkland, they're going to take you to their hospital. This is MetroCare, they're going to take you to such and such. This is Catholic Housing, they're going to take you over here to this hotel. Are you with me?
Yeah.
And this is what happened. According to Bexar County, their homeless population, after they opened up a direction center, dropped 77%. I don't believe it. I gotta tell you, I don't believe it. Okay, all right. I don't think it's. I think lies and statistics, right? But have they had a dramatic drop in homelessness? Yes. I mean, they have. They have. I mean, if you ever go down there to San Antonio, it's pretty good. You know what I mean? And we're not putting people underneath bridges and the like. Okay. Finally, how am I doing on time? Tell me if I'm doing okay. All right. I'll stop on this next
You're
one.
rigid.
Okay?
Go with that.
All right, go. Finally, there's one more thing I want to talk to you about. It's called LEAT, okay? Law Enforcement Education and Training, all right? Now, Todd here is homeless, okay? He's howling at the moon, and he's over here on Greenville Avenue, okay? And he is howling at the moon and yelling at cars as they go by. You call 911, and who shows up? Police. Okay, police know how to do it. This is I am not being critical of police in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I think they're terrific, right? But the cops show up and they see him and they have two choices. How you doing? See ya. Or get in my car, you're going to jail. All right? These are the two choices that they have. Now we can train them perhaps to be a little less sharp an edge when they're dealing with less homeless people. And there's lots of programs where cops are being trained like this. But by God, we have cops who are trained to do things like take down that bad guy, stop the bank robbery, chase the guy in the car, right? And we have specialties in the law. You know, I don't practice law as everything. I'm a litigation specialist. If you asked me to put Todd into bankruptcy, I'd go, you see what I'm saying? If you asked me to try and get him out of jail, see what I'm saying? It's not my area of specialty. Why isn't that true for cops? We have areas of specialty like SWAT and things like that. Very specialized training. We need cops who are specially trained to deal with mental illness and homelessness. So how do we do that? Let me tell you what's going on at the county. I've thought about putting this in our sheriff's department, saying, you know, come be a sheriff and do X, Y, Z. But here's my problem, okay? Your city of Richardson, God bless them, outpays my county. They do, all right? They got better looking cars than I got. Their uniforms are better. Yeah, no, I'm complaining, right? Yeah. Amen, what's he saying, right? Well, you know, all right, now it's time to recruit cops coming out of college, all right? Here's all these college kids, and they're saying, you know, would you like to be in law enforcement? Yes, I would. Well, come look at, you know, my ugly uniforms, my bad cars, and my terrible jobs, okay? Or you could work for the city of Richardson, and they're like, city of Richardson, here I come. You with me? So how do I, as a county, get these law enforcement without having to go through Dan Barrios, you know, who's paying his cops right? You know what I mean? How am I going to do that? And the answer is, I need to get them before they get there. How do I do that? I get them in college. How do I do that? You remember ROTC? You give me X number of years and I'll pay your college. This is what I want to do.
Oh, I like
Now
it.
that I'm paying your college, I want to not dictate, but coordinate your curriculum. You will graduate with 2 degrees, criminal justice and social work. Your job is to do one thing, take care of mental illness and to take care of the homelessness. You are both cop and social worker at the same time. Badge and gun, you see what I'm saying? So that you can take care of yourself. I mean, you don't want to get shot or anything, right? Now, I'm going to tell you there's a secret sauce associated with that. One guy shows up in a polo, the other guy has the badge and the gun. And depending upon what you need, you put them, you always go in pairs, okay? And then the county will have these employees, and it's available for Richardson. If Richardson has the guy hollowing it, Todd's hollowing at the moon yet again, okay? He's really good at standing with a sign. He did that when he was homeless, by the way. That's how he got that training. But, you know, now that he's howling at the moon, instead of sending these very good-looking Richardson Police Department with their fantastic-looking cars and absolutely well-trained police officers who are in the business of law enforcement, you with me? I now send in the lead force instead. And the lead force says, how you doing? You having a bad day? Looks like you could use a sandwich. You want to come with me? I got a place for you. It's called the Direction Center. It's right down here. Let's see if we can't help you out down here. You need a house? It's over here. You need a sandwich? It's over there. You with me? Yeah. So we need to put all of that together. Now, there's still a thought in my imagination that I eventually, as is the central direction. But I'm trying to build it as I go. You know, fly the plane and build it. That's challenging, by the way. You know, but first we have to have places for them to go, houses. That's the reason why I'm building the hotel. You see what I'm saying? We need to make sure that teachers are well taken care of because they're educating people and making sure that they can be employed so that they're not homeless, right? And what the hell, you know, we have our Republican overlords taking away all their education money anyway. Let's see if we can't help the teachers out a little bit since, apparently we're going to take away a gun and I could go on forever. And, the camera would wear out looking at me. All right. Now I'm done, but I'm not allowed to answer any questions yet.
You're going to sit up here after this is...
Okay, fine. I'm glad to answer your question later on.
Okay.
She's not going to let me.
Okay.
All right. And
Please save your question.
I knew what she tells me.
Yes.
You're all good.
All right. Well, that is amazing. That's amazing. That's a lot of good stuff. Adam Lamont is our next speaker tonight. Adam has formed the Dallas Neighbors for Housing, and he is a activist. And I met him back when he was block walking for Colin and Anna Maria, and so he is. I'm sorry, it's time to give my dog medicine. Sorry, guys. And he's been up in this area helping us out, and now he's down in the Dallas area, and I'm just really appreciative that you came out tonight. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you. And I am, not a politician, so I'll definitely use the microphone. Let me know if you can't hear me at any point. But yeah, and I'll try to keep to my 15 minutes as well as I can here. So yeah, I moved to Dallas about 7 years ago now. I worked on Colin Allred's 2018 campaign, and know some people from that, and so stuck around. I met my wife through the campaign, and became a teacher, and was like, okay, well, how can I still stay involved in politics a little bit without it being my whole life, and so do some of this housing stuff because it's so much fun. But we mostly do work in Dallas. I'll try as much as I can to sort of talk about housing generally, and why as Democrats what we can do as housing, because housing is complicated. There is no one simple solution to make housing affordable. If there was, right, we would already have done it, hopefully. But there's sort of all these different kinds of things and different ways that we can look at housing to make it more affordable. And sorry, I've just got notes here on my phone, so I'm just looking at those. I'll say Richardson is not bad on some housing issues, and I think a reason why the city is as good as it is because it's been able to accommodate new people and become a very diverse community because of the different kinds of housing that it has. When I first moved to Richardson, I lived at La Mirada, and that's of course a very active and very working class community. I live now just in Dallas, but stone's throw from Richardson by Richland College, and I end up coming up to Richardson all the time to eat and stuff because y'all have better restaurants up here, and a lot of that is because of the housing that we have. So yeah, I will say one place where it's not as good as it could be specifically is on affordable housing specifically. So when I say affordable housing, right, there's two ways that we understand it, and so I want to make sure that I make that clear. So we have affordable housing with a capital A, which sometimes is called workforce housing in some contexts as well. That's right, subsidized and income restricted, and involves some sort of government intervention to make it happen. So that's affordable with a capital A. Then you have affordable lowercase a, which is just housing that is affordable to people. That is in large part usually market rate but older housing. So think about your old neighborhoods within Richardson that have houses that are still sort of 50, 60, 70 years old and are original, or your apartment complexes like La Mirada. And so there's always sort of a balance and an understanding of, okay, how can we make sure that housing is affordable with that lowercase a, as well as having that housing that's affordable uppercase a. And so that's sort of where the tension comes in, is a lot of that being able to balance the two. So there's two quote-unquote LIHTC, which is low-income housing tax credit complexes in Richardson. So this is a pop quiz. Anyone know where they are? There's two affordable housing complexes specifically in Richardson. Anyone know where they are? Capital A affordable. Sorry, Capital A affordable.
Grove on the east side.
Francis Way and Beltline.
So it's Arapahoe behind La Casita. It's called Brookside, I believe is the name. that's affordable housing for seniors. And then the other one, I might have heard it, is by Renner and North Star. All right, so first one has a 2-year waiting list, right? Yeah, so that capital A affordable housing, yeah, is very, very much in demand, and there's not enough of it in general across the entire nation. And so, yeah, we do have very long waiting lists. For housing specifically that's affordable. So I will say this. So there's sort of 3 reasons I always say that why housing is as expensive as it is. The first one is just flat out that we don't have enough housing in general in our country, and even at a local level. So our vacancy rates, housing that's not occupied, is near record level lows over the past 60, 70 years. And especially since the housing crash in 2008, we simply haven't built as much housing as we did before. And so that's now added up to a deficit of, anywhere between a few million homes to some say, 7 or 8 million homes across the entire country. And, of course, this is all taking place against a backdrop of smaller household sizes, more people wanting to live on their own and whatnot. And so, flat out, we need more housing across the nation. And what that does, the reason why that hurts us overall is because what's commonly known as the musical chairs effect, right? Where basically if housing is musical chairs, and we don't have enough for everyone, the people who get left out in the musical chairs are who? They're the people who have the least amount of resources, and the least amount of ability to afford housing. And so even a not very nice home, when we don't have enough housing, can get bid up and become less and less affordable. The second reason why generally is that we don't allow for cheaper kinds of housing to be built. So this is, your traditional starter home, is very, very rare these days, in large part because, cost of land is higher. And so there are things that we can do to encourage those older, homes that we used to have, which, comes down to making you able to build on less land. So that comes down to lot sizes. There's, duplexes, right, where you can put 2 units on a piece of land instead of just one. The sort of analogy on this one is it's like a Honda Civic versus a Ford F-150, right? So we want to encourage the building of more Honda Civics because, right, if we only allow F-150s, your huge, big single-family homes, we're going to get the most expensive housing that we can. Not that we can't have, right, those as well, but you need that variety. And then the last one is, of course, that we don't spend enough money on affordable housing. And that is very, very true in the U.S. that we, right, have not made the commitment as a community and as a nation to have enough housing that's affordable. The market is not going to make housing affordable for everyone by any mean, and so we need to put forth, those tax dollars to make it happen. The stat that I like to talk about is, vouchers, right? Housing choice vouchers. There's only enough for 1 out of every 4 people who are eligible to actually receive a housing voucher. So 3 out of 4 people who, don't make enough money, basically they don't receive that help. Sorry. All right, so how much time do I have? 7 minutes. Oh, cool, I'm rolling. So, I don't have time to go into all the research about housing, but I will just say that generally, it has been found that, yes, building more housing does help to, make a city more affordable. It's not a panacea by any means, but generally speaking, at a citywide and at a metro-wide level, when you do build more housing, you see that housing be more affordable overall. So Houston is kind of an example of this, where they've built a little more housing within the city than, say, even Dallas has. And that's one of the reasons why they're more affordable. That's not the only reason, right? Of course, it's Houston, so who wants to live in Houston? That's another reason. But they have done some things that have helped them to keep that kind of affordability. And that's true, yeah, in other cities that have taken up these kinds of reforms. So Minneapolis is one. If you research that, you can look into that a little bit more. And even Portland, Oregon is one that's starting to see some of these effects as well. Us as a group, I'll just say, so where we kind of come in, yeah, where our specific fights have been. So 2024, we fought in the city of Dallas for more housing funds. So that was specifically, your uppercase A, affordable housing. We tried to get more funding for that to happen within the city of Dallas. Right now, we're involved in what some of you may know as For Dallas, which is basically us trying to allow for more of those Honda Civic type houses to happen within the city of Dallas. And I'll just say, like, some of this too is because, I live in older townhome neighborhood, Chimney Hills neighborhood, and so I see what happens when we do allow for this kind of housing to happen. And then the other one that we're always fighting for is just specific projects. If there's any one that might face intense opposition for specific reasons, and a lot of times the ones that do receive the most intense opposition are those capital A affordable housing projects, then we want to make sure that we show up in response. There's a lot of additional benefits besides affordability, right, which is kind of your top line and definitely the most important one. There's a lot of other Democratic reasons to want additional housing, especially in a place like Richardson or Dallas. The environment is one. When we don't build a home here in Richardson or Dallas, where does it get built instead? It gets built out in Anna, Frisco, right, way out, somewhere that doesn't have any access to, DART or any sort of public transit. It requires people to, drive further distances along the highway. And so, the United Nations has, said that basically creating cities that are more walkable and have more housing within them is a major key to reducing our carbon emissions. Fiscal is one. I won't touch on it too much, but basically if you have more housing, it allows you to spread the burden across more people for your city. Homelessness is another one. Generally when you have more housing built and you keep it more affordable, you can then have less homelessness. The livability and walkability one is a huge one. I'll say that when you are able to, have a neighborhood that has a little bit more housing in it, then you're able to then, have a local business that pops up, a coffee shop that you can walk to, something like that, where all of a sudden you don't have to get into your car and drive every single time for something. And then the last one, that sort of ties into that is better public transit. Because in order to have effective public transit, you need proximity to those places. I think that's somewhere that Richardson has done a pretty good job on, and I think can continue to do even better. The Arapahoe Station redevelopment is one that we, I know the city is, probably, maybe Dan will talk about it, of that redevelopment of, the more housing we can get in a place like Arapahoe Station, the better. Because, one, that helps moderate prices, and two, it means that we can get more people riding DART, and get more revenue that way too. And ideally, right, we would even put in an affordable housing complex, in the Arapahoe Station as well as part of that. Just so as like a wrap up, I always come here. I'm a proud Democrat. I'll admit that housing sometimes you can get crossed on political lines. There are a lot of Democrats who rightfully are wary of housing, and I definitely understand that. And I always think of housing in sort of a way of, housing is similar to immigration. We can't have a zero-sum attitude towards it. We can't be fearful of it. We can't, say that, in the same way that we can't wall off the border and not allow any new immigrants into our country, we can't wall off our cities and not allow any people to live closer to us. I very much come from that standpoint. And then I'll just say this too. If you want to turn Texas blue, right, consider who's more likely to vote as a Democrat, right? The person who buys a small townhouse or an apartment somewhere in Richardson or Dallas, or the person who buys the larger single-family lot way out in Collin County. That person who buys that land out in Collin County, they're not going to be a Democrat, most likely. And so, when we think about turning Texas blue, I think that we have to have that positive vision of making our cities even more of a powerhouse. because cities very much are democratic entities. They require cooperation. They require people to, put in together and to understand differences. And so for me, I very much see that as part of our goal, and I think that we can make Texas blue by allowing more housing within Dallas, within Richardson, and these blue areas. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a great way to wrap it up. I think that we obviously, as Democrats and as a Democrat club, that's what our main goal is, to turn Texas blue. So I appreciate you bringing it back around to that. Our next speaker and our last speaker tonight is Dan Barrios, Councilman Dan Barrios. And if you don't know, this week is 1 year that Dan has been on the council. So thank you for your service this year and for being supportive of us. Both you and Curtis have been here all the time, so I appreciate that. But thank you for coming tonight to talk to us about what's going on.
Thank you. It is my honor to be here. Before I get started talking about housing, there's a couple of quick announcements I want to make. For those of you who may have missed it or remember from back when we started, my son Leo, who's grown up since the last time many of you saw him, he's in the back. He's wearing a purple shirt. He just turned 16 a couple of weeks ago. He's still my sidekick. He just looks a lot more grown, and he grows a beard faster than I can, so it's embarrassing. But Adam learned a very important lesson here today, and although he's not running for office yet, he did learn a very important lesson. Never follow Andy, because it's impossible to follow Andy. Andy is just one of the most captivating speakers. Him and Anna Maria, if you've ever heard either Andy or Anna Maria. But Adam and I met back in on Colin Allred's campaign, back when Leo was 8 or 9 years old, and he was making calls for Colin. I remember that, up Greenville. When I ran the first time in 2019, I lost by 82 votes. The very next day, we had a big windstorm come through Richardson. My house was the last house in the city to get power back. We lived in a hotel for about 3.5 weeks because we didn't have power in my house. But I was actually on the way up to a casino with my mom to blow some steam off after losing by 82 votes. I got a call that my son and my wife were trapped in the house because trees had come down front yard, backyard. And Adam came the very next day. I think I put an announcement on Facebook if anybody's available. Adam was one of the people that showed up. So for that, I'm always grateful. Thank you, Adam. He's a good man, good heart, and a fellow teacher. I want to, couple things. The couple quick announcements. As Jeannie said, it was actually yesterday. It was 1 year that Curtis and I both joined the council. We're the first. It's our first term on the council, and it's been an absolute honor to serve the people of Richardson. Many of you were there in December of 2018 on my birthday. That was actually December 12th. I threw a party and I made the announcement in my house. So many of you were there when I made the announcement I was going to run. And while that election didn't quite turn out the way I was hoping, it's something that will forever be with me and a part of me. And I learned so much from that experience. And it was, and having the honor of being welcomed back and allowed to run again and having the support I did, I will forever be indebted. And serving Richardson will be one of the greatest honors of my life. And I mean that with my whole heart. It's been a whirlwind. I've spent the last year just trying to keep my legs under me, as they say, as I learned the ropes and, learned some things I thought I knew. Then I got on this and I was like, okay, that's slightly different, and try to create impact where we can. Right. Over the last year, those of you that were there in my house in December 2018 when I first made an announcement, y'all heard me talk a lot about maybe putting a commission together, something like that. One of the things, obviously, I didn't win that, and then other people took that on, and it's slowly grown. There's a blue ribbon committee put together, and most recently, the council, we just appointed the Inclusion Engagement Commission. So it's just something new for Richardson. Again, steps in the right direction. Exactly. Yes, that was. You'd be amazed how many people are against inclusion and engagement. It's still, the week after I won last year, somebody went through and put white nationalist stuff in the neighborhood, threw stuff in the front yards. I was speaking on stage at an Asian, I forget what event it was, over in Chinatown. So I got off the stage, somebody starts yelling at me to go back to my country. I was like, okay, all right. But he said, well, Mexico lost the war, go back. I was like, my people were here. For those of you who don't know, I'm half Hispanic, half Cajun. And my family has they went to bed Mexican, woke up American after the border crossed, right? But, all right, opioids. I know that's something that's been on people's mind because John Oliver had something go viral this past week but just when that opioid settlement, Richardson's getting $660,000 out of that. So far that we've received $97,000. It was initially talked about to use it for Narcan, which all our officers and ambulance units carry. But to be honest, it's not used as much. So most of that money is going to be used towards treatments and mental health programs through the counseling place and through network. So we're going to use that to supplement that for the next few years as we build the budget into it so that the city can take over dedicating more money to those causes, to mental health, with those two organizations. So I did want to throw that out there. And you guys, those of you who know me, know I love engagement. We are in the middle of the comprehensive plan. There are some community summits coming up. I saw a lot of you at a couple different summits. Y'all, this is one of the most engaged things. We've had incredible engagement from the community. If you want a flyer, there's a flyer over there. My son's at the table. There's both of these flyers. This one is the Aquatics Master Plan, where there's QR codes to fill out a survey. There's some community engagement opportunities for you to go in, look at the plans, give your feedback. Your feedback matters. They've made a huge difference already in the comprehensive plan. They will continue to make a difference. Please, please, please be engaged. Give your opinion. This is how it happens because it doesn't matter who gets in office. They can't do it alone. That includes me. That includes anybody else you've ever supported. They need you to continue to be engaged, not just at the voting booth, right? That's just the beginning of it, not the end of it. All right, sorry. Now I've got to... So Andy mentioned several terms. Adam mentioned a bunch of terms. And terms, there are a lot of... And if any of you have ever done any research on affordable housing, you'll realize, he talked about big A, little a. There's a lot of different interpretations. And there's a lot of thoughts on approach. So this is obviously something that several of us, there's been some conversation in the city about. My concern, when I ran and when I was knocking on doors, and when we knocked on thousands of doors, one of the things that surprised me about running is the amount of people that cried on the porch with me because, you have these widows who've been living in Richardson 50 years. They've been a widow for 20, 15. And they've been retired for 20, 25 years. And they're getting priced out of their house because of taxes, right? It's getting really, really expensive. Last fall, I read an article. The average two-bedroom apartment in Dallas County is $2,200. A couple of months ago, I read an article. The national, it was like 80% of Americans have less than $8,000 in the bank. So yes, we have homeless. We also have people like teachers. Those of us who are teachers making $60, $62 a year that can't afford a house in Richardson. But you also have a lot of people who are just struggling to make ends meet. When you look at a teacher who takes home, let's say they don't take the insurance and they bring home $4,000 a month. Well, when you think you have to make 4 times what rent is, that means a $1,000 apartment. Where are you going to get that in Richardson? Maybe I don't even think La Mirada is that low anymore. So you start running into different issues. Now, when I was talking to business owners. And again, this is Dan Barrios, the candidate Dan Barrios. This is not me speaking on behalf of the city council by any means. But you start talking to business owners, and business owners are like, I can't get employees. Well, why? Well, nobody in Richardson, you can't afford to live in Richardson and make $15 an hour. So where are you going to get those people? Well, we're going to get them down from Forest and 75. Well, how are they going to get up here? Well, they're going to take DART. Well, why would they do that? As a high school teacher in Lake Highlands, I have students making $17, $18 an hour at Home Depot. Why are they going to come up here for 15, 16 hours? Why are they going to come up here for 15, 16 hours? So it affects business owners. There's a lot of, one of the things that as we start this discussion around affordable housing is we need to come to terms with, I know Joe and I, Joe is another person on the council. I think we share a lot of the same, I guess, maybe the heartstring, like we're pulled by some of the same things, but we could have a very different approach. I know one of these is we have some agreements and we have some disagreements, but in that process we're like, okay, well, what are the terms? So obviously this is something that we as a council, it was brought to us on May 6th, and I made 10 copies. They're floating around. Somebody's welcome to have this. But Danette Garcia, who's one of our assistant city managers, presented this to us. And one of the first things she did was discuss terms. There's some definitions in here, some that you may recognize, some you may not. Things like AMI. Most of us don't understand AMI. That play a big role in understanding affordability. Big A, little a, understanding affordability. Understanding what the housing crisis is. You need to understand and get on the same basis definitions so that we are speaking the same language. Because if we're not speaking the same language, you can't move anywhere. Obviously, Dallas County has been looking at this problem long before Richardson has as a community. So the first step and what was proposed and what we discussed was, let's look at this. This gives us kind of an overview. Some cities around us, Denton, Louisville, I know Dallas has done it at a much bigger scale, way ahead than we have. But they've brought in consultants and looked at the problem because they need to define the problem. Because Dan can have opinions all day, Joe can have opinions, Curtis can have opinions, we all have opinions, right? We all have them. That's part of what you have to do to run for office. You have opinions, right? But we can all have opinions, but unless we have the data, it's difficult to make that and understand where truly are the gaps. So what was proposed and what we agreed to look at is when we look at the upcoming budget, when we're starting the front end of the budget process over the next several months, we're going to be looking at the next year's budget. Is perhaps, and usually there's, part of the budget of everything just to maintain what we've done so far, then there's the expansion part, right? So one of the things we're going to look at, and usually they'll bring us a whole list of things and say, okay, here's the menu. Council, what things do you agree on that we truly want to use the expansion money on? So one of the things we're going to look at is studying the affordable housing problem in Richardson. Is where are our gaps? What are we considering? Is it, and how are we going to address those issues? But you need to know what the problem is, truly make it a data-based decision before we can address them. If not, we may be on the same side agreeing to it, but we're going to go round and round on how to address that problem because we don't have that understanding of the exact gaps in the system. So that's where we are as a council is in the next few months. So if you support studying and understanding and having that ability to make those data-based decisions, you support, hey, and you understand we as a city need to look at this problem. We need to look at it because it affects businesses. We need to look at it because, one, as we build things up, where in redevelopment are people going to live? We had a discussion recently, and for those of you who follow council know, I wasn't a big fan of some of the areas of study we're focused on in the city under our comprehensive plan. One of the areas is this Bowser over off Beltline, so just east of the police station. I'm not a big fan of it. Why? There's a couple of reasons. One, it's an area that has these mid-century modern apartment buildings, one of the more affordable parts of the city. My opinion was that no, obviously I was the lone man out on this, and that's okay. But my opinion is, look, while y'all know Mayor Pro Tem Arifin, good friend of mine, we agree on many things, But again, it's just about approach, right? And I'm not saying I have the right one. I'm just using this as an example and why this kind of study is important. He said, well, those apartments are, we wouldn't want to live there. They're not being taken care of their residents. Well, on the other hand, well, that's true. I would hate to live there because the landlords aren't taking care of their residents. That's the reality of it. The other side is, yes, but if we do that and they get eliminated, where are they going to live? I would not want to live there. But at the same time, they need somewhere to live. So it's finding out people who spend a living studying these kinds of things versus it just being me or Curtis or Joe or Arifin or anybody else, but truly getting to the bottom where the problem is. What does data say? And their entire organizations, this is what they do. They study this stuff. Things like, like I know Adam's in on a lot of that. So that's what we as a city are doing. We're in the very beginning steps. I will say Housing Forward, some of you are familiar with that. Don Magner, our city manager, has been very involved with Housing Forward for the past year. And he's attended meetings. He's so not just from on the council talking it, but from the administrative side of the city, we're taking steps in the right direction, and we are definitely looking at it. It's something that we talk about and taking a holistic approach, look at things. When I ask that you get, if this is truly a concern of yours, look at zoning cases that come up. Look at things like, what. If you support something like this, speak out. Let your council members know. Let your mayor know. Let come and speak and say, when we look at budgets, and speak up about it. So we know that this is truly something we want to address. Because I know Dan wants to address it, but it doesn't matter how much Dan wants to address it. And I know Joe wants to address it, but it doesn't matter how much Joe wants to address it. The question is how much we as a community want to address it. And it truly is a community effort. I think there's a lot of people. We don't have the homelessness issue that some of the other cities have. Do we have homeless? Absolutely. Do we have people that think homelessness is an issue? Sure. I mean, any one person without a home, is an issue. I would hate to be in those shoes, and that breaks my heart. But compared to other cities, we do pretty well in the homelessness part. But we have a lot of people that are really close to not being able to afford their basic rent in their apartments. And that greatly affects our community in many ways. On a personal level, as a man of faith, I don't think it's, correct. But at the same time, on the business side, it makes a difference. So please speak up, please be engaged. Flyers are up front. My business card's up front. A lot of you know how to get a hold of me, but my cell phone is on my business card. Please feel free to reach out anytime. I'd love to hear your thoughts, love to have conversations with you. Thank you.
Okay, we've got questions. Goodness gracious. We've got questions. Pop up. Okay, so can you guys talk? Can they talk loud enough that? Do I need to push this back and forth? Okay. All right. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna give this to you, and not to you. I'm gonna give it to Adam, and then I'm just gonna point to people, and I'm gonna repeat your question. If you don't say it loud enough, I'm gonna repeat it loud enough that the camera can hear it, because we are on YouTube tonight. We're streaming to YouTube for the people that weren't able to come here tonight. So, and for posterity. So think about that too. Thank you. All right. I'm just going to start on this side of the room. Go ahead.
Okay, sir, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name.
Adam.
So the homes that they're building for the teachers, how big are these homes? And how much would they run?
Okay, I'm Andy. He's Adam, by the way. Just no, it's all good. It's all good. It's good. These will be over 2,000 square feet. If depending upon its density, let me tell you this: if I'm doing the 29 homes the way that they are now, they'll be in the mid 2,000 range. Now, if I can get City Council of Dallas to allow me to have greater density, I could build townhomes there. Now I could double, triple the number of homes that are in there, and the size of the home will shrink slightly. It will be right around 2,000 square feet. The price will drop dramatically. But right now, the way it's zoned right now, I can put 29 homes on.
Secondly, the apartments that, or the hotel,
Yeah.
are they gonna be furnished for these people?
Absolutely furnished.
Okay, the question is, will the apartments that they're refurbishing be furnished for that segment?
Yes, absolutely furnished. Absolutely. Bed, couch, the whole 9 yards.
Okay, Lynn?
The program where you said people would be trained as social workers and criminal justice, is that something that exists now, or is that something that you're working on?
It does,
She said the question is, the program, the LEAT program that they were going to, that he's projecting will train police officers as social workers and police officers does it exist now?
the answer is it does not exist at the county level. In the city of Dallas, they have something called right care, right? And what this is they get 3 people in a car. One's a cop, one's a social worker, one works at Parkland. Now, that's a great system, and it works, let me be clear. But, oh my God, is that expensive. I want to put that picture, I got to put 3 people in a car, each specialized trained, right? So if the nurse is sick, these 2 ain't doing anything, you with me? The cop's out, the other 2 ain't doing anything. Okay, and I got to put 3 of them in a car at the same time, at the same schedule, paying different. This is challenging from a monetary perspective. So there's something akin to it happening now in the city of Dallas. In the county of Dallas, it does not exist yet. This is my thought, and where I'm headed with this, is so that everyone's equally trained, both as a social worker and a cop. Put 2 in a car, and it doesn't matter which 2. I don't have to. If one's out, put another guy in, put another gal in.
So could that be something that could be implemented at the community college level?
Yes, absolutely. It can
Through
be.
the Dallas County Community Colleges?
Yes, and let me tell you the schools that have already agreed to participate in this. UTA, UTD, and A&M Commerce. These are the 3 schools that have agreed to participate so far in it. Now the reason why I picked on those schools is because I cannot afford SMU. I cannot, okay? I can afford these, colleges like that. But Dallas County Community College is a college, and they can offer this degree program. They just don't have those programs yet that can merge together. We're talking to them, and I can't wait for them to get into the program.
Thank you.
You bet.
Carlos?
Have you considered college?
Have I College Community College?
Which is Plano, Fresno, and yeah.
So he's in Dallas County, but
No, Collin County ain't gonna get my money. Okay, I'm already trying to beat up Collin. Let me give you an example of that. Right now, if you are a Collin County resident and you need health care, where do you go?
Parkland.
Sorry, who's paying that bill? Dallas County. One of my things is going to be suing Collin County and saying, give me my money, all right? So no, Collin County will not be getting my money. These are universities within Dallas County.
Mari?
Andy, what do you consider affordable housing? A teacher, at least in Richardson,
Yep.
they do have a higher starting increase of $61,000,
Yep.
but most likely they have $40,000 in student debt.
Yeah.
So someone that makes $61,000, there's no way they can afford a $300,000
No, they
home.
cannot.
So that's not affordable.
It is not.
And Dan, our city manager, when I ran for city council, I asked him about the homeless situation. He actually flat out said there is no homeless in Richardson.
We do.
And from what I've been told, because I also volunteer at Network, they pick them up and take them to Dallas.
So
They remove them from Richardson city limits, so they do not have to deal with them, and they have, and Network, they're not allowed to have any kind of unhoused housing.
All right, Maury, yeah, when you and I first ran that 2019, absolutely, we were both hearing it on the campaign trail. That's one of the things I heard about so much. Those of you who know me, for many years I volunteered with the homeless, over 20 years, with various different faiths or houses of worship I've belonged to. It's one of my passions, is helping the homeless. I can say that this we do have some of that, yep, and I do know as a teacher in RISD, although I teach on the Dallas side of the line because I teach at Lake Highlands, that's my day job. In case you don't know, we make up to $5,000 a year on the city council. I put in about 35 hours a week on this, and for those 5,000 a year. But yes, I have about 4 to 6 students per class that are considered homeless, and what we consider homeless is somebody who's couch surfing, or there's a few that I've had over the last 4 years as a teacher that do sleep in cars and that kind of stuff. But yeah, we definitely have homeless. I think it was Dallas Business Journal just had an article yesterday that showed us neck to neck with New York City for the most apartment fills and rentals over the last quarter. So we're right now tied for number 1 housing market in the nation when it comes to people trying to fill apartments.
So Andy, what are y'all considering? When I hear affordable housing.
And I do want to say this packet, if
300,000, and I'm like,
this has a lot of those definitions, Maury. So those of you who haven't had a chance to look at it, if you don't have a copy, I just brought 10, so I apologize for that. But our website, or if you email me or call me and give me an email, I'll have somebody forward it to you. But this is,
and I'll put it in our
there you go. Okay.
Facebook page.
All right, so the question that's being asked is what's affordable, right? And if you're talking about workforce housing, which I think is where you're headed with that question, is $300,000. Can a teacher afford that? No, is the short answer. Might they be able to afford $200,000, depending upon the interest rate? $150,000, yes, they can. Now, what's my density out here? If it's 29, I'm not going to get there. I'm not.
no,
But
I
if-
think duplexes and
Right.
townhomes are
I
the
need
great
density.
option.
I need density, and everybody needs density. If you want to grow Dallas County, you're going to have to find places to build houses. Where can you find it? It's called infield building. That's what that's called. Give me a piece of land in Dallas County. You know what I mean? It's not a swamp. You know what I mean?
Let me add to Andy. So infield, this is a term we use a lot in Richardson. Richardson, we're at about 2.5% greenfield, meaning we have nothing built on it. There's about 2.5% of the city where we can build stuff. We have stuff come before us all the time. You spoke, or your friend spoke at, this is before I was on the council, at the one at Arapahoe and West Shore. That greenfield that got built up, I think you had, right? Am I remembering correctly? No, maybe not. Okay, somebody else. I thought it was Sandy. But we have another thing coming before us here shortly. That's back behind the Kroger. I will say, I'm personally not a fan of it. Why? Because we're talking about infill, but we're putting townhomes that are starting at $650 on up to $800,000, and we're going to put 92, 98 home doors into this greenfield, but that's not affordable. Adding to the market absolutely adds competition, which brings down overall rate. Okay, right? So the idea is supply and demand. You add more supply, demand goes low, which helps pricing. Okay, everybody understands high school supply and demand. But, which has a place, but we also need to look at other options. And that's why I say, do I have the answer? No, and don't take that comment as me having the answer. That takes it as, this problem is so deep, we truly need to look at this from people who truly look at it at a level that I do not.
I mean, because when
So
I
we
ran,
understand.
my big issue was police, firefighters, and teachers can't afford to live in the city
Agreed.
they
That's right.
serve.
Agreed.
That's right. So, 1 second. I have a question from Pam Thompson. She's watching us on YouTube, and she says, affordability. Wait, I missed her. What can cities do to make it easier to build Honda Civic houses? And so that's kind of between city, that's for all three of you. What
Density.
is-
Density is the answer. The more property, the more homes you can put on a piece of land, the cheaper it is. The biggest cost is the price of the land. So you're going to have greater density in order to have decreased housing costs and able to get affordable housing. That's it. That's the answer. There isn't, unless you're subsidizing it, that's the only way you're going to get it.
Andrew?
So, you mentioned we have the comprehensive plan process going on, and you know, many people in this room know I'm all about land use. That's the keys to the kingdom of any city, including the topics you're talking about. So, the question I want to ask, and it's, although you mentioned it, all three of you can answer, is we have this comprehensive plan summits coming up. Everybody in this room wants affordable housing. What message can we send going to those summits? And everybody in this room should go to those summits. What message can we give during those summits to the questions asked to the consultants that would help us deal with affordable housing 5, 10, 15, 30 years from now, which is what the comprehensive plan is about?
That was cute.
So,
So you can do her part.
so Andrew wants to know what questions can you, if you come in, are part of the comprehensive plan feedback, what questions you should ask?
No, what should you say?
What should you say?
What are the answers? to
Well, the
questions
answers
asked?
are what. One, I would hope that I would never stand up here and hope to give you answers, right? That's not, to me, in my opinion, what government is. I think it's all of us coming together, looking at the data. Sandy's expertise or thoughts might be one thing I may, and Andrew has another area of expertise. I think the idea is, and the reason I asked for y'all to get involved is because you should come in, look what's presented, and ask yourself, one, are they asking us what I want to say? Give your opinion on what's being asked, but then say, okay, what isn't being asked that's important to me? Are they just talking about this? Is there a slant towards something else? And truly give your feedback, because all that comes back to us. It really does. And we look at it, and I know there are others with other opinions that are giving their feedback, and it's important that you with your opinions give your feedback as well. So am I going to stand up here and say, you should say this? Wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. But I ask that you do be involved and do. And you don't have to know. Those of you that went to the last one, you don't have to know. I know Andrew. Those of you who know Andrew Alaska, he is very well read, knows the subject of development fairly well, and this is one of his passions, right? That with areas of interest. I don't expect you to know how much Andrew knows, but one of the feedbacks I heard from people, some of you that were in this group, is how little you knew going in, but you learned, but also were able to ask and be a part of that process. And that's what I invite everybody. I think everybody in this room would bring something different and a different depth to it. So please be involved.
Sure.
Annie, this is quick for you. COVID dollars, what replaces that? Because you mentioned that several times. Is a community land grant program possible for your housing development that would lower the cost of the units for the land? And then is there homelessness housing for people with addiction problems, because a lot of places won't take anybody if they're not clean? Thank you.
All right, so the answer to the first question is land's already purchased, so we don't need any money for the land. I need money to build the house is what I need, and I need it to be greater density than what I've got now. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
All right, good. And the second one was, what do we do about people who are addicted and need housing? And the answer is, you have to give them wraparound care in order to be able to house them. You have to put them in a facility like the one we're building out there at Greenville and 635, because there will be in the community center there where the common areas are. The common areas, there'll be wraparound services there. So you have to put it there.
So you're saying you need money to replace the COVID dollars? Is that
Yeah.
what you're saying?
Oh, yeah. I'm
then,
almost out.
Okay, you're almost out. And then the land for the teacher housing, because the community land grant would drop the
Already put
amount
in-
of housing.
already put in their
considered-
money, though.
Already there.
Already there. If,
Okay.
if I were to get money back for that land, I'd put it in the next house down the road.
Okay, thank you.
That other housing program.
Pat?
Okay. What's the time frame on this development that you're talking about?
The one on Forest,
Yeah.
I should have them up and running by 2026. Okay?
Sandy, this question relates to housing affordability.
Okay.
And I realize there's a dynamic tension between revenue and housing affordability. So last year we got this big tax relief from the state, you know, with the additional homestead exemption. And now all of us are, you know, experiencing much greater valuations on our house, particularly the land. My house went up 22%.
Yep.
That also tends to like push us out of our ability to stay in our homes. Can you speak to that?
Sure. So every time that we, a taxing authority, looks at how much we're going to tax you, we have to look at how much your price of your home is going to rise. So for example, when the county came up with its taxing scheme, we dropped our tax rate. In other words, the rate with which we tax you went down significantly. You with me? So it all sounds good. Look, Andy saved you some money. Great, terrific. But what if your home doubled in price and all I did was drop the rate 10%? Well, I didn't save you any money in those circumstances, did I? You see what I'm saying? So it's a combination of value versus the rate. So you have to have people making sure that they have a pretty good understanding of what the valuations are for their community that they're taxing and how much is it going to rise compared to what the rate is. So you have to have people drop the rate commensurate with the rise in the value. That's challenging, you know what I mean? And if you don't know, we've got a new way of evaluating, a new group that are evaluating homes. It's an elected position now, if you didn't know that. So you didn't, you know, whole new group of people, elected people doing the valuations. Okay?
So in my case, it went up $400, so it didn't.
It didn't help you, did it?
No.
Nope. There are other places that it did. That's all I can tell you. And I have to look at it from my perspective, county-wide, you know what I mean? Because that's my group. And Dan has to look at it from Richardson-wide.
So let me tell you on the Richardson side. Obviously, yes, there is a dynamic because on the government side we call that revenue, right? And then as a homeowner, we call that money out of our pockets. And so there is that balance, right? Because that's ultimately we need to be stewards of your money. It's hard-earned money.
Dan used the mic.
In Richardson, we're really proud that 60% of our revenue comes from businesses. So it's keeping that mix so that the burden is less. Now, you're right. Even if we drop it, which previous councils have, and we as a council last year had that discussion when it came to budget time, is do we want to lower that tax rate or do we keep it the same? We chose to keep it the same because lowering it puts us further and further into hole, and we really made a commitment to the as a council to invest more in infrastructure in a way that had never been done before. And some people were not happy with that. But the reality, but when you have things like concrete that's gone up 300% in the last couple of years, and other, as you all know, groceries are getting higher, everything's getting higher. It's a tough call, and it's one that we as a city chose to keep the tax rate the same while previous council had chose to lower the tax rate, but it just put us further in the hole on infrastructure. So we kept it the same, but with the valuations going up. But the key, I think, in Richardson is to keep that balance. Now, obviously, there's a lot of economic issues on the table. What's going to happen to all these office buildings that are Class B and Class Cs, and how are we going to redevelop those? Are we going to be able to get investors in that want to redevelop them? And still, there's a lot of questions there on redevelopment. And I can speak for the council, say this council is committed to address those issues. Do we have the answer? No. Like, I don't know who said earlier, if we had the answer, we'd all be richer. Like we'd have the magic bullet. But we are definitely looking at that, and that is part of the conversation.
And yeah, there's sort of three things that you can have three things and you can only choose two of them is sort of the general rule. You can have low services, low taxes, low density. You can't have all three, right? So you can either choose low density and low services, but then, you're gonna, you can't have good taxes, or you can have good service, low density, and low taxes, right? So basically there's always trade-offs in everything that you do. And so, obviously, it's easier for me as a non-elected official to say that, but always keep that in mind. If you don't have that density, you're going to be giving something up. The only sort of way you can get around it, those things, is kind of basically be Highland Park, and basically wall off your city, which isn't exactly the Democratic stronghold, that we want.
So,
say-
so the land
say-
values went up like 40%.
Yours did, yes, and in southern sector, south of I-30, they did not, okay? And if I were doing the tax rate for District 2, and let me give you an idea of that map, Richardson over to Irving along the border of Collin County, straight down Central Expressway in a V shape all the way down past I-30, okay? We had higher valuations than anyone else. We did, okay? And so my question became, could I drop the rate further for you to do it? And the answer was, yeah, I could probably do it. But if I did, then I wouldn't be able to provide services to the southern sector in any way, shape, or form, is the way that that would go. So, yeah, your rates went up. I even dropped your tax rate, and I didn't keep up with you, did I? Nope. But I was able to do it in the southern sector.
Okay, Sandy. Kathy, sorry.
Yeah. So I have one question for you, Andy, and one question for Dan and Andrew, if that's okay. So Andy, a lot of what you're doing, you're using the term wraparound services,
Yep.
and which I completely understand. And a lot of what you're doing seems to cross over with the work of Housing Forward. So I'd love to hear that you are collaborating with Housing Forward.
We are collaborating with Housing Forward is the short answer. But don't forget, Housing Forward doesn't go everywhere in the county.
I know that.
They're very Dallas City centric. And so if I'm going to help Richardson, Carrollton, Irving, Farmers Branch, Capel, it's got to be county driven. It's got to be county driven.
I understand, but when you talk about, was it detentions, or what was it called? The Direction Service.
Direction Center.
That would be probably more centrally located, is that correct?
It has to be. And by the way, let me talk about that. Are you wanting that next to you, that Direction Center? No, you don't, okay? No one does. You with me? So where are we going to put this Direction Center? Well, I have an idea on that too. I got to build me a new jail, if you didn't know. My jail's falling apart. It's 40 years old and it's at the end of its life. So I'm going to have to give me a new one. Now, wherever I put that jail, the NIMBYites are going to lose their mind. Can you imagine that? Okay, it's not a homeless center. I put a jail next to your house, okay? All right. Well, if I'm putting the jail there, I might as well put my Direction Center there too. Why is that? Because 60% of the people in my jail are homeless. You see what I'm saying? So it makes sense that we have this Direction Center, that it is centrally located in answer to your question, and it must be, you know what I mean? And it needs to be right near my jail since I'm already blowing up the NIMBYites with my jail anyway.
Okay, thank you.
You're right.
I'm glad to hear you're working with Housing Forward.
I am.
Critical organization.
Couldn't agree more.
Andrew, I'm going to totally put you on the spot here because I have Adam. Sorry,
Yeah.
I have no idea if you have work around this area, but I have to think that you at least have exposure to it. What is your thought on the big ruckus on accessory dwelling units and whether that would help to solve some of the affordable housing problems?
So accessory dwelling units, if you're not familiar, are shortened for ADUs, are seen as a way where you can build an additional structure on a single family lot or any lot that typically has restrictions on how big it can be. Sometimes it's a separate structure, sometimes it's an attached to an existing structure. So maybe you're renovating your house, right, and you end up putting in a kitchen, where there used to be something else, and you do a butt out. But yes, I'm definitely in support of it. An organization that actually has done a lot of advocacy for ADUs is AARP. because it allows for a lot of aging in place. It allows for a lot of intergenerational living, where, you can all of a sudden, if you are someone whose kids have moved out and they want to move back in with you, and they have a family, but they want just a little bit more privacy, you can get that set up with an ADU. So yeah, I'm very supportive. I mean, you need to have some protections on it, in terms of how big you can build them and whatnot. And so there's definitely that process, right? You can go back and forth and argue on it, but it does need to be an easier process, for you to make it happen. And I do think it can help with affordability.
Yeah, I have no problem with ADUs. I think they absolutely add to a lot of what he just said as far as the intergenerational. To me, that's important. Does he know me? No, my mom moved in with us about 4 years ago, so now we're kind of on the flip side where my mom moved up here and I take care of her, and she's my dependent, and she lives upstairs right next to my son. And so I definitely see the value in that. I do know that NIMBYism is huge in Richardson, and we all think it's a great idea until it comes to our backyard. And I suspect that in the next few months, we're going to hear more and more of that as we get deeper into the discussion. On a personal note, I think it's an important part of it. And I think, creating that zoning, what I am not in fan of is if we say, well, we allow it, but we're going to allow it over there. I think that it needs to be allowed throughout, because I think it's going to be a hard thing to crack in Richardson just because of the area that these kinds of things may be generally people want them to be. The reality is that's the southern sector, which is southwest Richardson, where we have this, but we have smaller lot sizes, so it may not necessarily make the most sense in southwest Richardson. But yet, that's probably where, some people say, well, keep them over there. Well, also but yes, in short, I am absolutely for ADUs, and there's a lot of different options. If an investor comes in with cottage houses or some other kind of something that's new to Richardson, I absolutely am open to that.
Doesn't the city have like a code in it that it's called the maid's quarters?
I'd have to look at the code on that.
I think we're not allowed to have it at all in Richardson.
We're not allowed that right now.
Yeah, not allowed to put any in, for sure. I know that.
More than 100 square.
We're not allowed to put any. So another thing that Pam wrote in to me is in relation to the smaller houses, the little cars, that it's not just, the answer is not just the ability to have denser housing, but it's also the zoning that allows that denser zoning, and that's really the crux of it, right? And so the question is, I guess as a community, my question to you, because what I want to do at the end of this day is be able to give this group of people who is clearly very interested in this subject, what are the things that we can do as a community, show up at city council, I'm assuming also there's to the commissioner meetings, and work with, get involved with what Adam is doing. But if you could each just give a quick wrap up of what you would say we can do as a community to advocate for this affordable housing, no matter what we're calling it.
Okay, so if you're going to advocate for affordable housing in the county, we have very limited control over this. I don't do any zoning, right, unless it's in an unincorporated area. So the only places that we as a county can make a decision as to how much density it is in the southern sector, basically. That's where the unincorporated areas of Dallas County are. All basically in John Wiley Price's district, okay? If you're talking about an unincorporated area in District 2, the answer is none. I don't have a single inch of road that is unincorporated except for a cemetery, okay? And I'm not putting dense houses on the cemetery. I saw that movie. We ain't doing it, okay?
They wouldn't complain.
I don't know. I saw that movie. I don't know about that. But that's basically, all I can do is provide dollars to help subsidize by buying land and then having a developer build upon it.
So somebody else has to do the zoning part of it. Somebody else has to. Okay, go ahead. Adam, go ahead.
I mean, yeah, in terms of advocacy, if you're within Richardson, I mean, I always say if there's ever a project that's just proposed, or I research it, and I would say anytime if it's on vacant land, come out in support of that, because, any housing is better than no housing. And so a lot of times, even vacant land, there's opposition to it. So that's kind of your lowest one. Then also, you can start to look at one thing, within Richardson. Obviously, it's a suburb, and you're going to need a car to get around most of the time. But can we look at the areas that are close to DART stations of reducing the amount of required parking, that's within those areas? And so that's something to advocate for, and to say, City Council, hey, we are okay with that, because those are people who are going to be using public transit more, or maybe they're just the kind of person who's not going to have 3-4 cars, and they don't need. I don't know what the Richardson rules are, right? But for instance, in Dallas, right now the rules are you need 1 parking space per unit, or no, sorry, not 1 parking space per unit. In an apartment, you need 1 parking spot per bedroom. So that's essentially a tax. If you have 3-bedroom apartment, you need 3 parking spots. If you're a single, if you're a mom, you don't need 3 parking spots, especially if you're somewhere that is closer to DART. So looking at those kind of requirements, because any spot that's a parking spot is a area that's not housing in that development. So it drives up the cost of development. And so that's another one. But yeah, just, anytime when there's vacant land, always show up and support that housing.
I want to say something. When Pam came and talked to our book club last week or whatever, and she was talking about that piece of it, the amount of parking that is required. When you hear that, you can't unhear it. Now when you drive around and you look at all these empty parking lots, the CVS or the Target, I mean, there's so much parking that is required but is not used. So it'll be interesting if you guys drive around. It's something that you can't unring that bell once you've heard it. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah. Okay. Where do I begin here?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. There's so much there in this question. Yes, it's city. It's most of it falls on the city. Like Andy said, if not all of it falls on the city, because we're the one that do zoning. Keep an eye on the CPC. I'm going to put Nate's in the back. He's a member of our city planning commission. They vote on zoning and before it comes to the council. Okay, and everybody has a different theory in government, what purposes, and the board of directors or government. My approach is council's there to put the human touch, right? Well, that's why we're elected, is because we're to put that human touch, versus a CPC may look at the details to see, does this truly fit according to what the rules we have. Keep an eye on the CPC, because it'll hit the CPC, quite a bit before it hits the council. You're several weeks out, if not a month or so out, 3 to 5 weeks before it hits the council. It goes through Nate and his commission. So please keep an eye on CPC, get involved, and then when you see something, you see something that maybe they voted for, and come speak up. Contact your councilman or councilwoman. Please reach out, because you'd be amazed. Very few people speak up about zoning. Very few people.
Let me just say one quick thing about the CPC.
CPC. The agenda for the CPC is always published on the Thursday before the meeting on the City of Richardson's website. And in addition to that, everyone has an opportunity to formally issue a letter, make a comment, either pro or con, for anything that it's a public hearing. So I just wanted to say that. So if any, what is CPC?
City Planning Commission.
Yeah. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. So they decide and recommend to the council. Yes.
Can I just say that I've been to these meetings and I've seen where we put all the dots on the things that we're interested in.
Yeah.
And the accessory dwelling units and high density housing is on fire. I mean, everybody is for that. So.
That's something new to Richardson. That's something fairly new to Richardson, and people being on fire for it, because some people showed up that had previously not been engaged. That's why engagement is so popular.
And
important.
I don't know about NIMBY, but I mean, I'd be happy to have that, because an accessory dwelling unit is only kind of like an extra bedroom. It's only going to be like one person or a couple probably, so it's not going to increase density in a problematic way, but it could increase density in a very useful way.
Well, if I can just say, in case y'all don't know, I'm a realtor, a broker. I've been a broker for 25 years. So what I want to say is also about any of those ADA units, those accessory.
Yeah, ADUs.
ADUs. They also mean more cars that are going to park in that space. So in neighborhoods, if you have a accessory dwelling in the backyard and every house has one, that's at least one more car in the front of the house. So parking is a consideration for those things. And when you get into neighborhoods where they do have any of that, you do see more and more parking. The point is, and I think this is something I wanted to kind of bring up as my piece of this, if I have one. Joe Corcoran called me about a week ago and said, Jenny, have you seen this mini-series called Show Me a Hero? It was made back in 2015, and it's about Yonkers, New York in the 80s. And it was about affordable housing coming into the city and where were they going to build it. And they were forced to have this affordable housing come in. It's a 6-part series on HBO Max, and I would really encourage you to check it out. If you have access to HBO Max, check out Show Me a Hero. It really gives you a very broad, like how does it affect individual lives, both people who need the housing and people who are living in these neighborhoods already. It's easy to say, well, I wouldn't be a NIMBY. I wouldn't be a not in my backyard. I'm a good Democrat and I know people need housing. But when you look at what the truth and the facts of it is, it's pretty easy to get to, well, that's really not appropriate for this area, or it's going to affect the value of my house, or my quality of life, and it's a very complex subject, and I really appreciate that all three of you, this is, and Joe has been an advocate for this in Richardson for years. It's a complex subject, and as electeds, it's not easy for you to take the heat for any of the stuff that you make, suggestion of or try and put forward. And what Richardson has decided to do and declared that they're going to do in this this research and study about how we're going to be
addressing this situation and how we're going to prioritize where we put the money and where we put the time and the energy. It's a first step, and it's a small step. It's a complex situation. I would seriously encourage you, as Joe did me, and I jumped right on it. Like, he called me and I was like, I didn't have anything to watch tonight, and I started it. And Show Me a Hero on HBO Max. It's just really worth watching. I'm going to wrap this up because we have a time period here at our lovely 4 bullets. But before we go, Dan has asked for a couple of minutes to wrap up. Thank you guys so much.
Hey guys, thank you. I just want to give a quick plug. We've been doing a lot of stuff. I'd love to tell you what we've been doing over the last year, what I personally have been doing. We recently started something called Breakfast with Bars. We're going to have another one in a few weeks. I had 43 people show up to my front yard a couple of Saturdays ago, and I cooked breakfast at 8 a.m. out in my front yard. We're going to continue that to keep that engagement going. If you'd like to attend, let me know. Follow me on Facebook. Also, if you'd like to support, because money still is going out of the campaign, even though we aren't bringing money in. If you'd like to support, there's QR codes. But I want to give something to Jenny, something real small, little token. Some of you have seen on Facebook, especially those of you who follow me, know that we had a delegation in Washington, D.C. Myself, Joe, several others, members of the chamber went to Washington, D.C. to meet with some Congress and Senator Cornyn, and it was interesting. It was interesting. I learned, let me tell you one thing I learned. I learned from the wonderful Congressman Pete Sessions, while we were taking a private tour of the Capitol, I learned that the nice people there were taking a stroll through the Capitol on January 6th, and that there's no reason for over 300 people to have been arrested for just taking a stroll, which the people own. So that was something I learned, so keep that in mind. Now, this tour, we had dinner one of the nights at you ready for this? The National Republican Club of Capitol Hill. We had dinner at the National Republican Club one of the evenings. And it was interesting. Just so you know, there was a lot of diversity. Every person working there was a minority. And then there was myself and a couple school board members. So there was a lot of diversity at the Republican Club of Capitol Hill. But I brought something. I saw this, I laughed because you don't see this I brought you a souvenir, Jenny. And this is a little matchbox of the National Republican Club. And I brought this to give to you so you can remember people are trying to burn it down. Keep up the good work.
Yes, and Andy wants to say something in closing too.
If you didn't know, there's a saint in you all's presence. It's my wife back there, who, God bless her, has been ready for me to go to the airport. I'm the shortest person in the room. That's Elizabeth. That's my daughter. Thank you all for being here.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Thank you for coming up tonight. Thank you for all you do. And thank you all for coming and be engaged in this. This is not just a one-time thing. Keep on coming. Keep on going. Our next event is going to be in June, middle of June, 3rd. We always meet here on the 3rd Thursday. Please come. Please always put that on your repeating calendar. And we'll be back here at that time. Thank you.